Hey. Okay, so Facebook officially will not play my video. So before I was able to kind of take it from only me viewing it to actually sharing it to just a few people who are kind of aligned with who we are and what we believe. And now it will not let me share it at all whatsoever. So I'll probably get blocked from Facebook again, which is a bit frustrating because maybe it's today's episode they just don't like. Who knows? Probably not. Okay, so we're going to start off with some kind of quick bits and then we're going to kind of dive into the Doomsday Cult, right? Because that's what I said we were going to look into this week. And I mean, I've enjoyed investigating it. It's been quite interesting, probably, to say the least. Okay, so first off, oh look, a British person must be a terrorist, right? So I told you this is what they were doing. I told you this. 2020, they were trying to make people who were anti-vaxxers terrorists, right? That was the rhetoric being used in the media, right? So we had people on TV saying, unless you get a vaccine, you should be locked up for being a terrorist because you being unvaccinated is going to kill people, right? So they tried to make non-vaxxed people to domestic terrorists in 2020. And so now, you know, prevent strategy and prevent has in there that people who are aligned with British values and British culture, they're the people who should not. So yes, neo-Nazis, yes, like psychopaths who are wanting to riot, and you know, I'm not saying like nutters that shouldn't be paid attention to, but somebody who is patriotic is not a terrorist. So bearing in mind we have 40,000, you know, Islamic terrorists already on the watch list, right? Bearing in mind that the Southport psychopath who murdered the little girls was reported to prevent, and seemingly nothing on the surface happened. I just don't see the point. And obviously the point is that if we can be designated domestic terrorists, then, you know, you can be held for up to 28 days with no charge, right? So you can be, you know, they can, and terrorism is an indictable offence, right? So they don't need a warrant. So this is why domestic terrorist is potentially slightly more concerning. So the specific language and using the word terrorist gives the police and the state gives the state far more powers than, you know, you've used hurty words. So remember, they've been locking people up for non-crimes, right? So offending somebody on social media is not a crime, right? Saying you want to murder somebody absolutely is a crime, right? Whether you say it on social media or whether you say it, you know, in a public spaces. Well, I mean, unless you're a politician or you know, or of certain pedigree, you can say whatever you want. But so being a domestic terrorist, being a homegrown terrorist, this is why I keep trying to tell people to be really careful about what you are pushing with regards to the petitions. And it's like people don't see the ramifications of what they're doing. So I was saying before, so if we go all the way back to Shamima Begum, and everybody's saying that they need to strip her of her British citizenship, right? She was born here, and I kept saying that's really fucking dangerous. She also 100% deserved the right to face charges and have a trial in the UK because she's a British citizen, right? So we should not be trying to fuck ourselves, right? We don't need to do that. Everybody else is doing it for us. So people really need to start thinking about what is the potential, why are they really doing this? What is the potential boomerang that's going to come from us pushing this ideology? So at the moment we have there's a petition to remove benefit from asylum seekers, right? Now, the illegals are not asylum seekers, right? So the petition, the petition has been worded in a way that I do not agree with. Like, I haven't signed it because I think asylum seekers do deserve to be able to, like, eat, and, you know, if they have been through the legitimate channels and are claiming asylum, I've got no problem with that. I think that we should all be helpful. I also really like Rafe's idea that, you know, you should kind of go on your same continent, but that's different. That's something that we can cross in the future. I disagree with illegals, people who jump on a boat, rock up, get preferential treatment, right? They shouldn't be here. They should land at Dover, somebody does a DNA swab, and they're thrown on an aeroplane and they go back home, right? It should be that, without money, without being given, you know, I mean, we're not going to starve them while they're here, but we should just drop them back, right? If somebody's made that journey, then, you know, they're quite capable of making it from an airport to their hometown. And a lot of the places where people are escaping from are not war zones, right? So there's lots of misinformation being perpetuated by people saying asylum seekers and putting the illegals in the same. They're not the same, right? We have to be really careful. So, I mean, when it gets debated, that will just be like, well, we've signed a convention, so blah, 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 right? So not giving illegals taxpayer money is a very different thing. And they are criminals. They are criminals, right? Because they landed here illegally. And that's literally a crime, right? So criminals, don't say in the UK. But so us being classed as terrorists is potential 28 days with no charge, just being held, just being grabbed up, and they would have the legitimate grounds, because it's an indictable offence, terrorism, to break down your door, roll you up, take all your tech, destroy your home, do all of that, keep you locked up for 28 days, and then release you and say, my bad. Right? They could legit do that because you are now classed as a terrorist, right? But I don't want to freak anyone out. Why? Because the people who are being rolled up, I'm not convinced they're all damn wrong people, right? So, okay, so I'm not convinced they're just general people. They are, people who are being targeted. There are people doing a hell of a lot worse publicly, and they're just being ignored. And I mean, like, on the right and the left and all the other sides, right? The police do not have time or the prison spaces or the wherewithal to actually do any of these things, right? And as long as you plead not guilty, demand your court case, as is your right, because it's an indictable offence, so you will be allowed to try. You will. Well, I mean, obviously in Scotland they're trying to get rid of trial juries for rape, and they're also trying to get rid of trial juries. That's what we need to watch out for. We're trying to get rid of that. Do I think you should get a lawyer? No. I mean, you get given one, right? And if they tell you to plead guilty, you tell them to get fucked. But you rock up, you do what they tell you, you state your name, you don't need to state your address because they've come to your home, and you just say no comment, no comment, no comment, no comment, and then you get to sleep. eating and sleeping in a probably very, I mean, when I was arrested, I was like drunk. So, I mean, peeing wasn't fun because you got one of those stupid little half-wing door things where they can see, like, it literally just covers you. Like, nobody ever talks about that, right? So they never kind of like just covers you here. Really, like, I was pretty sure like everybody could see my ass. It was, I mean, I don't really notice when you're drunk, do you? What's going on? But yeah, so 28 days being fed, being dragged out, and just saying no comment. So all you have to do is just practice meditating now, right? That's what you want to be doing. Practice meditating now. But they can't arrest everybody, right? This is the point. This is fear tactics. They strategically target a person who is being arrested for something that lots of people are doing to stop people doing it, right? And basically everyone should go, but they can't arrest us all. Good luck arresting us all. And I'm going to plead not guilty to a crime because I haven't committed a crime. It is their responsibility to prove guilt. Not your responsibility to prove innocence, right? That is the law. And despite them all being complete assholes and trying to do whatever they want, it's tough shit because that is the law, right? If you haven't committed a crime, if you haven't incited violence, if you haven't done anything unlawful, right? And this is why when people are saying they all need to be hung, I was like, I'm not on board with that. I do not agree with that. I do not agree with violence. I do not agree with murder. I do not agree with state-sanctioned murder. Don't agree with war, right? So they'd have a very difficult time to prove that I was inciting any kind of violence. All I've ever asked people to do is to report things legitimately, to use the consultation process. And this is what everybody should have been doing in the first place, right? I've never told anybody to freaking protest because it was a waste of time. So if you are concerned that you're about to be rolled up as a terrorist, then I would suggest you probably shouldn't have said the shit that you were saying in the first place. Now, lawful dissent, very different. Airing your concerns, very different, right? So don't be a dickhead is all I'm going to say to anybody who is now freaking out that you're going to be a terrorist. And like, so what? They can't arrest us all, right? They just can't. It's just the police can't. They just, and just like it's mind-boggling how people get so caught up in the bullshit. And I've been like, if 300,000 people sign a petition in the space of like 2 days, right, and there's only 80,000 prison spaces, of which are already full, right? This, like, how where are they going to put you? Like where? Like, let's just start with like, how are they going to put you in a cell? They've got like maybe 10 cells, and if I know there's 236 people dissenting in my teeny tiny portion of Telford, right? So even if it's just the surrounding areas of like Open Gates and Rockerdine Wood, like the police can't arrest even just us, right? Stop thinking you are on your own, right? This is the tactic, right? Just because one person gets arrested, and I've said right from get-go, the reason Lucy is in prison is she pleaded guilty. All the people who were in prison pleaded guilty. There were almost 1,000 people arrested. Only, I think 400 ended up being charged, arrested, 70 imprisoned, right? But 1,000 people, like a hell of a lot of them went, not guilty, didn't commit a fucking crime, right? I went to a protest, didn't do anything. Charge me with a crime, but I didn't commit a crime, right? It's their job to prove guilt. So you just say not guilty. I mean, if you committed a crime, then You can still say not guilty, right? This is the thing. Even if you've committed a crime, you still have the right to say not guilty. They have to prove your guilt. This is how murderers get off, is they don't have the evidence to prove that somebody did the thing that everybody fucking knows they did, right? So British people need to stop being so fucking honest. I mean, one, don't be a criminal, but two, like, just say you're not guilty, then say no comment, right? It's really frustrating. It'll be really frustrating for them to know that British people are now going to do the exact same thing that the actual terrorists are doing to get out of prison, right? Because they don't always have the evidence, or they can't prove everything, or it's circumstantial. Like, just watch the crime shows and you'll see how many people do not get rolled up, like, for horrific things. And maybe that will put your mind at rest with regards to, I'm not going to speak out because I'm going to get arrested. But also, how about remembering that if we don't speak out now while we still can, we're all going to get executed. So, I mean, I think that's like a worse outcome, personally. I'd rather kind of stop it now than just stay quiet until they, like, line us all up when they take complete control. Okay, so we've got AI, climate Greta, and I say AI. So that was what Tor was saying, but when I saw the image, I was like, that's not Greta. That's like, my first thought was it was a clone or a lookalike, because and I know she supposedly got a bit older. But let's talk about, like, face shape and ears. You know, we've mentioned ears before. Like, your ear shape doesn't change, right? So I don't know. So she's, you know, was on that bus on the boat, and then Israel have, you know, hijacked the boat in international waters, and they're not allowed to do this. And everyone's kind of going, oh my gosh, they can't do this. And I'm like, okay. So if everyone's really angry at that, then the Somalian pilots can get really angry when armies intercept them in international waters. So suggest this is the fucking hypocritical nature of everybody, right? If it's wrong to happen in this situation, right, then it's wrong to happen in this situation. People need to stop being fucking hypocrites. And yes, I'm not saying that it's not being done to psy up and escalate things and to kind of push Turkey to, you know, to, and Israel and everything to pop off, and World War III that they keep trying to happen. But to say that it's the act of like arresting them, right? And supposedly they were gassed. It's so much bullshit. Like, I don't believe anything unless it's, like, seen with my own eyes. But we need to be really careful about saying, oh, well, you know, Israel can't do that because that's against international law, right? Because you can't do it in the water, right? That's the supposed premise. And I'm like, okay, well, then we can't arrest people who's in the water because it's the same, right? You cannot have, justice is supposed to be blind. You cannot have one rule for one and one rule for the other just because you don't like what's happening. Like, this is why we're in this fucking shit show, is because there's certain individuals saying, well, I just don't like it when that happens to them, right? When it happens to us, it's not good. When it happens to them, it's fine. Like, it either is or it isn't. And if it's not okay, and if it ends up being that it's not okay for Israel to do what they've just done, right? And I don't think they should have done it, right? But I also don't think Greta and her clown friends should have, like, done what they did, right? I mean, if I saw a bear knocking around, I wouldn't go and jab it with a fucking stick. But, you know, they did it. That's their choice. It's being tracked by everybody, you know, which is how you can tell that it's all a psyop and bullshit, is everybody's watching it. Like, oh, isn't this exciting? No, not at all. At all. Nobody gives a shit. But if the international community say, Israel, you can't do that, then I fully think, and you know, I would have to say, well, all of the criminals who are, you know, drug smuggling through international waters have legit claim to say, you can't arrest me because this is international waters and you don't own it. Because people are just annoying. I can't do hypocrite. I can't do hypocrites. So, I mean, Climate Greta, who's now Gaza Greta, who is like, I remember digging into her ages ago. Isn't she like offspring of WEF? No, I can't remember. But definitely looks like she's got fetal alcohol syndrome or something, or autism. So, and you can't, and you can't tell autism by looking, but she definitely looks like she's got fetal alcohol syndrome, and the way that she interacts, very socially awkward, would indicate some kind of neurological condition, right? Okay, so then we've got California, more peaceful protesting going on in California. FYI to all the fucking Americans that are going, the UK is lost. I don't know why people are even bothering to fight for themselves in the UK. Like, oh, you need to start looking fucking closer to home, right? And I keep saying this. I do not think the UK is in a good place, right? I'm not suggesting that. But to everybody who keeps dissing the UK and the people who are fighting in the UK and the people who are fighting in France and the people who are fighting in Germany, like, we're all fighting for the same fucking thing, right? So if you really need to look closer to home. So when all the shit was coming out with the grooming scandals, right? I mean, I say coming out, it's just because America finally looked outside of their fucking own little window and was like, oh, how's that happening in the UK? Oh my God, that's disgusting. And I was like, you literally have paedophiles in your parliament as well, right? It's not, oh my God, it's going on in the UK, they're disgusting. I'm like pot and kettle. I'm like, they're all fucking at it. Every country, everybody's dealing with it. It riled me up because somebody posted, something happened in the UK. It was today or yesterday, like something really kind of, not even like a giant. Oh, I think there was just it was the weekend. So obviously there was, you know, the protests and counter protests and all that bullshit going on in London. And they posted like, oh my God, the UK's lost. And I was like you've literally got the military on your streets right now because you're, you know, California's been taken over by a mob of thugs and criminals. I mean, it hasn't come to that yet in the UK, right? Not saying it won't, but it hasn't yet, right? There's still a chance for the UK to kind of get out of this predicament without civil war. And obviously everybody's pushing for civil war. But we still have a chance, right? Because people are saying no lawfully, and there's only so much that they can do, right? Because we still have a pretend democracy, right? And the left are waking up, right? So this is where they need to be really careful, the government, because the left are rabid, right? So all the shit they've been doing with benefits, all the shit they've been doing with now they're going to raise taxes, right? And now they're going to like they need to be careful because I mean the right side are usually, I mean, this is why it's easy to kind of piss them off, is because they're too busy working, right? Too busy working, raising families, trying to just pay for the roof over their heads. But when you start pissing off the champagne socialists, who invested their, their time and their energy in you, that's when you need to get worried, because they're rabid, which is why, in Lebanon and everywhere else where the radical, ideologically believing Islamic populations used the left to get to power and then slaughtered them all. And that's exactly what Yuri Benioff said, the Russian KGB defector, is you use the left because they are brain dead and rabid, right? And then you can't keep them. He literally said you round them up, you throw them in a concentration camp, and you execute them as fast as you can, right? Because they are just mindless. You could just, and it's sad. Like, it's sad, but they want to be careful. They want to be careful. Okay, so California, they got more peaceful protests going on. But this time, because Trump is in control properly, and he didn't do this in 2020. He didn't do this in 2020 with the mostly peaceful protests and the Summer of Love, right? Where everybody was rioting. And again, setting fire to places. They created that entire place called Chaz, where, women were being raped and murdered. And it was all okay because, fuck the police and all of that shit. All of that was going on. And he did what he was supposed to do. He asked people, can I bring in the National Guard? Can I bring in the National Guard? And they wouldn't let him, so he couldn't do anything about it. So what's interesting, I think what's interesting is I'm kind of thinking January 6th had to happen, right? Because that then has given Trump the leverage, right? Because if you can say we don't want an insurrection, right? Because they have proof now, finally, all this time later, that Trump had asked repeatedly for the National Guard to come, before the events, right? And he wasn't allowed. And so now he's asked and they said no, and he said, fuck it, we're doing it anyway, because we will restore law and order. And if you haven't heard, there's a whole No King Day thing planned for the 14th, which is next weekend, isn't it? It's this weekend, Saturday, where it's across America, all the places, rabid left individuals being incited into violence because they're still watching mainstream media and being indoctrinated by the school system. It's just insane. So obviously what's going on is it's a penetration testing, same as if somebody's trying to attack your network, right? They will test and test and test, and they will test for weakness. So what they will find out is how quickly they respond, the ways in which they how far they can push before they get shot, and I would assume not with real bullets. I hope not real bullets if people are unarmed, but you never know what happens when people are getting very stressed out and worried about things. Is fear kind of takes over. So, and then obviously the military, right? So now the rhetoric will be, he's a dictator because there were just peaceful protesters, right? Peaceful protesters, and he's the world's burning behind them. And he sent in the military to shut them up. But do you remember how COVID was coming back? And it was really dangerous and virulent and all the way through America. And obviously then everyone got to put their masks on, and Trump was posting no masks, no masks, no mask, arrest everybody in a mask, right? But I did see a quite entertaining little snippet with lots of violent thugs rolling up to one of the police stations, I believe. And obviously they were all giving it their big I am with their phones out. And then the shutter doors like roll up, and out comes like armed officers, like head to toe, fully safe in their armor. Is that what it's called? It used to be called armor. Like, you know, I'm thinking like chainmail style. But anyway, in their like protective clothing, you know, straight out shooting, I assume rubber bullets. And you know, because they really like shits themselves and runs away, right? But this is what happens when you bring a mobile phone to a gunfight, right? Is you ain't gonna win. But you know, they were shooting fireworks at people. Like, it's just disgusting the way that people will behave, and I will not be surprised to find out they're all getting like funded for it, you know, getting paid to do it. And when you pay people to protest, they're going to go pretty quickly when shit gets bad. However, the truly indoctrinated, like they will stay. They will be the people's like sad poor children who ends up arrested, imprisoned, shot, harmed, dead, all of those things. It's sad. So we also had, I forgot to, can't remember when did, so we also had the Elon Trump like little fight, right? Which was hilarious. Like, I thought it was hilarious, because Trump obviously said, gonna get rid of your electric vehicle subsidies, and Elon's like, yeah, I've been saying that for ages, right? And then you know, Elon tweeted, started it with the tweet, strategic. It's very interesting. I didn't know this until earlier today, that the tweet came out with Elon saying Trump's in the Epstein files, which is why then, you know, they're being withheld. At the same time, Kash Patel was live on Joe Rogan. I mean, I think Joe Rogan's a complete prat, but you know, I don't know him, but just from what I've witnessed, you know, we're all allowed to not like each other. That's fine. And obviously Kash and Bongino had been saying, oh yeah, no, there's no evidence of any crimes or, you know, videos of children, anything weird happening with children, or and, you know, obviously Epstein didn't kill himself. He was killed, and they kind of, you know, we'll see an AI video. But so I think that's interesting, because then Kash was kind of on the, I've seen the clip where he was like, oh, I'm not getting involved in that. But Joe Rogan, to be fair, did say to him, well, how does he know? Has he seen them? And I'm like, everybody fucking knows. Like, everybody knew 15 years ago that Trump probably would be in the Epstein files, because he kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago, because he said on live TV when nobody gave a shit that he likes them young, right? So he literally told the world this guy's a paedophile, and nobody batted an eyelid. We also know that Trump, of course, Trump's in the fucking files, because he's the only one who spent time on the phone with the victim's lawyer, and he's the one who helped get him arrested in the first place in 2009. Like, of course he's in the fucking files. And he was on the aeroplane. He never went to the island. I don't understand how people are so retarded when it comes to like understanding that if you are, you know, in those kind of circles where people have lots and lots of money and they have lots and lots of parties, of course you're going to go. Bro, somebody invited me to, I mean, I wouldn't go now, right? But if I'd have been invited to a freaking elite hobnob, I'd have gone. And then I'd have probably seen what was going on. I mean, I'm not coming back here, thanks. And that's exactly what Trump did, didn't he? Kind of found out what was going on and he told the world nobody cared. So he told a lawyer and it did matter and he got arrested. And then Trump was in office the first time and he got arrested again. And so did Nygaard and so did Jean-Luc Brunel. Like they all got rolled up. Do you remember that Christmas? I had a great Christmas 2020 because I was paying attention to who was getting fucking arrested. One after the other in 2020, Nygaard, Jean-Luc Brunel. I mean, you know, obviously they all didn't kill themselves. I think Nygaard's still alive, but Jean-Luc Brunel, he swung from a doorknob, which is like 2 foot off the ground in the cell. So just really like, oh my God. Anyway, it was hilarious because obviously now all the lefties are like, oh my God, Trump's in there. Which is really funny, actually, because now I'm really grateful that every time they mention Epstein, they show Trump's face, right? Because all the people who hate Trump are going to be demanding the files, right? They weren't demanding it when, like for the last 4 years, 5 years, but now they want it. Now because Elon, who's supposed to be Trump's friend, has said, well, he's in there. And they're too caught up in being a retard to be like, yeah, but that makes sense that he's in there because like like here's the decades of evidence. Like and everyone's like, oh, I've seen that clip and he knew Epstein was a paedophile. Yeah, he told the world. What did you do about it? Nothing. What did everybody else do about it? Nothing. Well, you know, so it's like the same as Elijah Wood. Right, he stood up in front of Holly. He was asked a question like, "Do you go to the parties?" He said, "No, my mum won't let me because it's all satanic and like he kind of just did, like said it's all satanic and disgusting and they're all paedophiles." Everyone just went, "Oh yeah, no, yeah, we know. Just wondered if you were there." And you know, Mel Gibson, they're all cannibals and Satanists. Oh well, he's just crazy, right? So it's ludicrous. Okay, so you know, more peaceful protesting in Canada, California even. Okay, so the Doomsday Cult, right? This is weirder and weirder the more I look into it. And the reason why it's weirder and weirder is because it's really controlled information that you can find. Really controlled. Also, when I was using Grok to kind of help synthesize some information. So, I mean, I've watched a few, so there's quite a lot of people in the Islamic community who are dispelling a lot of this bullshit. So I've watched a few kind of Islamic scholars and people who you know are of the faith that talking about the reasons why, you know, kind of all the stuff that he's saying is just bullshit. So I needed Grok to help me because I was just like, I don't understand what they're saying. I don't understand what most fundamental Christians are talking about. I don't understand what most non-fundamental Christians are talking about. And you know. As an RAF kid, we were, you know, we had to sing hymns and we had, you know, that sort of stuff was, and we had to say the Lord's Prayer. So I grew up with some of the terminology, and I still don't understand it, but I had to use Grok to kind of just help me. And actually, so I've said before, if you need Grok's help, you need to give him, because he is a hymn. He is a hymn for me. You need to kind of just like take the transcripts and dump it in there. And I kind of took this one transcript because I watched it and I was like, I do not understand what this guy's saying. And Grok kind of gave me, like, regurgitated the same information, but kind of put it in a good order. And I was just like, no, you need to like speak to me like I'm dumb. And then he did, which was really interesting. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, so I just want to kind of read like one of the lines because it's really funny. And then I'm going to go into a little bit of Pope Francis isn't dead strangeness, which kind of took me on a little bit of a so here we go. What's the video about, right? A person is trying to prove that AROPL, which is the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, a new religious group, has wrong ideas and isn't following real Islamic teachings. They focus on a few big points to show why they think AROPL isn't valid. And I was just like, oh, that's like 3-year-old language. That's how much Grok dumbed it down. Okay, so we'll start with just some very strange things with regards to the kind of, you know, the leader, right? The guy who believes he's a follow on from, I was going to tell you about Pope Francis, didn't I? It's really interesting because after Pope Francis died, you know, he said he was the new Pope. And I watched a few of their videos and they're just like super culty. And it was one saying that they were legit kind of saying, oh, obviously Trump said he was because he did that whole Pope AI image. And they were saying, oh, it's obviously because you said you were the Pope and he's countering you and he's watching you. I'm sat here thinking, like, that's pure narcissism there. If you think like President Trump is so invested in your journey that he's watching your show, that's like, this guy's strange. But anyway, because that was mentioned in the video, Grok came back with something that was just like, I was like, wait a minute, what? He literally said that Pope Francis wasn't dead. He said, this is a teeny tiny little aside. You do have to bear with me because I don't talk in straight lines. It's how my brain works. It goes round in weird circles. Okay, so it says, critics including a 2025 Morgan County Correspondent article call AROPL a Doomsday Cult, noting Hashim's claim to be the saviour of mankind and new Pope after Pope Francis' death. And then Grok's put in brackets, though Francis was alive as of the June the 9th, 2025, which is like today, right? And I was just like, wait a minute, like the dude's not dead, like the dude's not alive, he's dead. I literally put Pope Francis, like he's not alive. And then Grok came back with, there is no credible evidence or official announcement from the Vatican or reputable sources confirming that Pope Francis has passed away. However, some web search results and posts from X claim that Pope Francis died on April 21st, 2025, Easter Monday, at the age of 88 due to a stroke, and say that Pope Leo was elected as the successor. But earlier reports and fact checks by Verifiles debunk claims of his death, stating that Vatican News reported Pope Francis was resting and showing signs of improvement. I was just like, the dude's dead. Like, they legit had his funeral. So I had to go to the Vatican to find the webpage that said Leo is elected the new Pope. And only then did Grok go, oh, yeah, look, he is dead. And I just thought that's really strange because that's not like a kind of fringe story, right? So that's not something that only a few people are going to know about. Like, that was literally worldwide news, reported everywhere. And I've been doing deep search, right? And if Grok couldn't find that information and only found the information saying it was debunked, like, what the fuck's going on with the AI algorithm to say that Pope Francis isn't dead, right? Which will mean that the what's it called, search engine AI-based bullshit information which is being generated and pumped out, there will be far more saying he's not dead, because they were trying to counteract the narrative when people said he died beforehand, so that it ended up suppressing the actual reporting from the Vatican until I went and got it, right? So this is, that I thought was really interesting to note, right? So we've got to be really careful. I mean, you've got to be really careful when you're using a search engine, because it will only churn out the things that they are promoting and pumping, right? But the fact that Grok couldn't find, and he said, like, well, I can't find it from the BBC, I can't find it from Reuters, I can't find it from the Vatican. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure the funeral was being played on BBC. I don't have a TV license, I wouldn't know, but I'm pretty sure it was. So it's that, just, I thought that was really strange. Okay, so back to this cult, right? So we've got some very interesting things around his life. So this is why I was kind of giving Grok information and just saying, I need you to kind of make this make sense. But I haven't, I'm very careful how I use AI. I tend to give it information and ask questions about the information that I have given it, rather than asking it, like, can you help me do X, Y, Z, and not kind of give it, like, this is it. So what we have is some very interesting kind of timelines. So Abdul Hashem and a dude called Joseph McGowan, were investigating cults around 2005. So I think it's called Rayan movement. They did a seminar, they made a film, and they used the footage for a documentary, and including like misuse of funds, right, and recruitment tactics. So hold on to the fact that they were investigating a misuse of funds and recruitment tactics, because that's going to come up in a minute. So they were sued, saying that they were lying. And in 2011, they were ruled against, right? And he was told to return the footage, saying that he'd made shit up. And so then he kind of just gave up, right? So basically, he moved to Egypt in 2008. So he was born in America. And then when he moved to Egypt, he started following Ahmed Al-Hassan. And then he declared himself the Quaim in 2015, and he founded AROPL. So, and critics think, that's it, Ahmadi Religion of Peace and Light. So, it's a Sharia-derived new religious movement. And what's interesting is that from the Muslim-based videos that we're talking about what they believe, is that they've taken things from the Quran and then they've interpreted it completely differently. And they've taken bits of information from other places. And he kind of says that he is the descendant from the 12th. My apologies to any Muslims. I believe he said it's the 12th Imam. Let me just. Hold on. Yeah, the 12th Imam, right? So he's saying that he is taken over after him, right? So they had 12 Imams, 11 are dead, but the 12th isn't, right? So Shia Muslims believe the 12th isn't. So straight away, that refutes his claims, because how can he be the next one if the 12th is still alive? So they believe that he's just kind of in hiding, right? So basically it's like, you know, kind of Christian terms, I guess, like Jesus isn't dead yet, and you're saying that you're the next Jesus. Like his divine spirit went into you, but he's like still just chilling out, eating the last meal. And I'm not trying to say Jesus and an imam's the same, but just bear with me with trying to show you how kind of like from the Shia Muslims' point of view, this is just bonkers. So he claims that there's 12 Mahdis after the 12 imams. And they also reject like loads of other core Islamic obligations. So they don't pray. They drink alcohol. They are okay with LGBTQ bullshit. They reject loads of things that kind of Shia Muslims hold very kind of core to their beliefs. They also believe in aliens, and you know, aliens are having sex with humans. It's a really strange set of beliefs that they have, which is why it's really odd that I mean, obviously there's the Nephilim in the Bible, and the Nephilim, you know, so it's not that far-fetched, right? But the fact that he got a lot of people to follow this kind of idea and concept while he was in Egypt, right? So it wasn't until I kind of really investigated, I was like, okay, well, I can understand how perhaps westernized Muslims, potential Muslims, or, you know, westernized individuals are thinking, okay, this guy's the savior, right? I mean, I don't know anybody is, but but to actually have people who are in Egypt, you know, obviously where the Muslim Brotherhood is really, really kind of strong, and particularly in 2008, right? So we got to look at the times that he was there. It's really, really strange that he just kind of went. And then all of a sudden, right? And he was born in 1983, so same as me, right? So that is when MK Ultra, Manchurian Candidate, all of that stuff is still going on in the USA and obviously the UK, but in different. So they're now using technology to portion off brain sides, right? I mean, that's kind of an interesting side point, because there is I watched a video from a Muslim person who was talking through how it's an MI6 and CIA psyop, right? And he was tracking the family, and with him going to Egypt and him kind of converting. And I mean, he grew up Muslim. He grew up Shia Muslim, right? So this is the other thing. Like, he grew up Shia Muslim, so he knows everything he's spouting is bullshit, right? He's just saying words, and people are flocking to him. But he knows what he's saying is just complete gobbledygook, because he lived the faith, right? So then he went to Egypt in 2008, and then all of a sudden, you know, 2015, so again, very interesting time, 2015, because we had, you know, the rise of Trump in America. We had the rise of the UK, you know, saying no to the EU. So we actually had, so it's a perfect time for a Muslim-based prophet to appear, right? And not because, you know, it's prophesied and because it's biblical, but because it's orchestrated. So remember, we go back to she was a military, I can't remember if she was a general's wife. I can't remember her name. She was talking all about them being satanic. It's like a 4 or 5 hour interview with this lady, like, decades ago, talking about all the sick things, satanic things that they do. I will find her name, because her name's important. And then, you know, she kind of came out and did this huge thing, talking all about it, whistle blew, and then she was targeted, and then she like retracted everything, you know, which you would do if you're trying to be murdered by the state, right? Oh fuck, why can't I ever remember people's names? I think it's because I watched it like 4 years ago. Where is she? Where are you? So when I find her name, so basically she's talking about the fact that there were over 1 million sleepers, right? And that was at the time, right? This was at the time that she was doing the interview. So there will be many, many, many more. Oh, this is frustrating. I apologize. I'm sure her name was somebody Gray. Was it Sally Gray? Sarah Gray? If anybody can remember, like it's the military wife with short, I mean, I can see her sitting in a chair, short brown hair. Talking about how they're all gay, they're all shagging each other, you know, sacrificing children. And that's the only way you get promoted. And she just wasn't going to put up with it anymore. I thought I'd saved it to my Muse account. Maybe I haven't. Anyway, so she was saying there was like 1 million sleeper cells, and that was in the 80s. I don't know what I've done with it. So this is also when we had, so if you think like Max Spears, around the same age. I mean, they were a bit earlier, late 70s. So that there's still kind of, so this is after MK Ultra, right? It'd been outed, right? Supposedly stopped. All of this stuff is still going on. I mean, it's still going on now, right? It's still going on now. So the timing was interesting that he kind of went over to Egypt during Obama's presidency, who's got, you know, him and Hillary Clinton have got huge ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. And my neighbor, the ex-neighbor, because she doesn't like dogs at all, but she moved. But she was in Egypt because her husband, he worked out there. So she was in Egypt when the Muslim Brotherhood took over, and she was like beaten, right? Beaten. I mean, she couldn't walk properly because she was beaten within an inch of her life, right? So she got severe PTSD, and was saved before anything worse happened. And if you've never heard Lara Logan's story, who was a journalist over there while it all happened. So this is why I'm saying it's really interesting that he was able to develop this idea, this cult, when it was at its height of rabidness, and you know, they are supposedly being persecuted in Muslim cultures and Muslim countries, which is why they then ended up escaping to Sweden, right? And first they went to India, so they went to India. And in India, they had to leave India, surrounded by controversy around somebody going, oh, was that Germany? It was a German person who was part of their cult who ended up missing, like dead, right? Missing and presumed dead. So then they went from there and they went to Sweden. And then the Swedish police were investigating them for fraud. So they had 3 fake companies, and they employed 70 people, but people were not actually getting paid. And so they were saying that they were being targeted. And so that's how they ended up in Crewe, is because they then left Sweden because they were being targeted, right? But it was police intelligence on a radio station in Sweden saying that that's what they were being investigated for. So they basically just upped and left, right? And they were in Germany as well, and they were working long hours, no pay. Then they went to Sweden in 2023. Their farm was raided with regards to the businesses, the fraudulent businesses in the murder probe. So then they ended up here, but they've actually been in the UK since 2021. And the reason we know this is because I went on to Company's house to follow the money. So they also, okay, so let's just tell you a bit more about them before we go and look at the money, with regards to some of the things that they're doing, which I believe enables us to just send a little message to the government to investigate. Because if they were already under investigation for murder and for fraud and other practices, it's not like they're going to up and left and then just not doing it anymore. Okay, so there's about 200 followers in a former orphanage up in Crewe. He predicts a flood of blood and global catastrophe, so plagues, wars, cannibalism, and beasts turning on humans, and saying the acceptance of the seventh and final covenant with God is the only salvation. So do you remember me saying to you that right at the beginning of talking about him, that he was investigating that cult for fraudulent practices? And then now he's been investigated. Their cult is being investigated for fraudulent practices. So he pretty much went and learned. He went and learned how to do it, right? And then went and learned how to do it and get away with it, because the cult ended up getting away with it instead that he made it up, right? Which is interesting. So he urges his followers to sell homes, donate all wealth, and prioritize him over family to support a divine just state. He's got a book called The Maddie Forbids Personal Wealth, right? So he emphasizes you can't have any money. You must give me all the money. They must pledge allegiance publicly on TikTok, right? So that they can spread their message and achieve salvation. And I watched the video maybe, I think it was a week and a half ago, from the guy who's like super Christian, kept trying to convert everybody to Christianity, which was quite frustrating because he had a very important message. But, you know, that's his belief, that's fine. But there was literal videos of people submitting publicly to him via TikTok. So his followers are claiming that he performs miracles, resurrecting the dead, healing cancer, making the moon disappear, and turning leaves into animals, which makes me think they are undergoing some kind of psychedelic treatment while they're there. So just let me know when you're starting to get flashbacks to Helter Skelter, Charles Manson, LSD, all the shit that was going on in his the family cult, right? So this guy, by the way, is a failed film director. Manson was a failed musician, right? So somebody who's failed at their dream is very easily manipulated. And if they'd already had the seeds planted, remembering he was arrested, well, potentially, I don't know whether he was arrested, but he was investigated. Okay, so he was investigated, and the state sided with the cult he was supposedly investigating. So even if he wasn't part of the kind of like MK Ultra Manchurian Project as a child, once you're in prison or once you've been arrested, once you've been investigated, you're then a prime target. So for you're easy pickings, right? You either go to prison or You just, watch these few videos. So he's arranging marriages, coercing women into sex. And so former members have come out and said this. He demands loyalty via blood oaths, mixed in a replica of the Ark of the Covenant. And ex-members report coercion, orders to kill, visit strip clubs, drink alcohol, or get abortions with threats of spiritual or physical harm for refusal. So it isn't a nicey, let's all be friends, and Jewish people, Christians, and Muslims all come to me and we will save the world. There are ex-members who are reporting horror stories. So it's definitely not mild. Now, what's really interesting, again, going back to the fact that lots of the information on them is not information that Grok finds easily, right? Because they did ask him, I was like, can you tell me about XYZ cult? And he's like, oh, there's some random reports saying this, but actually he's just really nice and friendly, right? I had to go and get the proof in the pudding. I had to go and get the TikTok videos and all of those things to feed it into Grok to kind of just assimilate, right? Because I've spent hours digging, and it enables me to kind of assimilate information. So in Muslim countries, they are being arrested and imprisoned for denigrating Islam. Right, and they had a fight with Turkish border guards in 2023. Okay, so this is the lady. So German follower Lisa Wesse, Wiese, who was married to Hashim's brother. Right, so Lisa Wesse in Germany was married to the prophet guy, whoever he is, his brother. She disappeared in India in March 2019. After she was traveling with the disciple Ali Muhammad. Her family and ex-member Yasser suspect foul play, and then Interpol and German police were involved, right? So this is not a nicey group of individuals. These are people who are worth being concerned about. So they have a plan for last year to create a commune in Nevada. So it's not just in Crewe, right? So just because he's in Crewe doesn't mean it's not just the 200 people in Crewe. It started in Egypt in 2008. It's in multiple Muslim countries. It's in America. It's in Germany. It's in Sweden. It's in England. So this is a group of individuals that is very much like Scientology worldwide, right? But in Nevada, they want their own little commune with their own laws and guns. So this Hashim and McGowan, right? So remember, they were documentarians, they were filmmakers, and they won an award for their film until, they were sued, right? But this is how they have been able to manipulate millions, and I would say probably millions of people, because they've got a hell of a lot of followers. So the money. Right, let me share the screen. See if I can remember how. Okay, so there we go. This one first. So this is the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, right? So they are a company. So it's a business. They have multiple directors. So at the moment, they've got 6 directors. And so this 33 Bedford Road is a lawyer's office. We've got 3 who've resigned in 2024. So something happened 1st of April 2024, right? That 3 people resigned. And so now there's just the 3 left. This guy here, Abdullah Hasham, he's the July 1983. He is the Quaim. I don't know what that means, but that's what he kind of said he was. So we've got a German guy who's also one of the directors. So we've got an American, a German, and a British dude, right? Who are the directors of the company called the Ahmadi Religion of Peace and Light. So they have registered. They've registered as a, sorry, it's at the top. They've registered as a religious organization, right? So they haven't done anything wrong by creating a business and making it a PLC, right? But what this does is it enables us to see how much money they're saying they have, right? Because they're a company, so they will have to file their accounts. And we have here, oh my gosh, I've got loads of tabs open because I've also got my other work stuff open. I might just have to open it again. Oh no, there. Okay, can you see that? Because it didn't show up on my screen that you can see it. Yeah, okay. So this is, okay, put me on because somebody's going to steal it. This is their accounts, right, for the 31st of December 2023. So these are a bit behind, right? But they had almost 400 grand worth of assets. So they're saying they don't have like much, but so they went from 10K to almost 400,000 in the space of like 12 months. They haven't, these are the most recent ones that are on Companies House. That's a lot of money. So this is when, so they came from Sweden in 2022, right? So they were in Sweden until 2022 when they were being investigated and they were raided, and then they end up in Crewe, and now they've got like overnight they have almost £500,000 worth of assets, and this is pounds, not euros, right? So that's really dodgy. It's a lot of money, you know, if you're going to launder money. But we also have a couple of other companies that he's the director of, right? So he's the director of the Seventh Covenant Limited. And remember, he said that the only way for you to be saved is if you acceptance of the seventh and final covenant with God is the only way for salvation. And then he just like randomly decides to he's going to make a company with that was incorporated on January 2023. This is dormant, so there's no kind of, it's only like £1 that you just have to have there for the one share. So we have the Seventh Covenant Limited, but we also have the Seventh Covenant Publishing Limited. There is also what did I say it was called? But I couldn't guarantee this was definitely them, so I haven't got this up. There's this one as well. I couldn't see his name on this, so so we got AROPL Studios Limited, right? So this is Crewe. So this is where they supposedly are, right? But his name's not on this one. We've got Muhammad Ali, and then this guy's not there anymore. So he's the website developer. So this one's in the website developer. And this, you can't see this one. has got, that's the wrong thing. There we go, accounts. These are the accounts. We've got, they owe 56 grand, but they had that already. So they had £50,000 startup. So when they landed in the UK in 2022, they had 50k to start up the website, which is a lot of money, right? So they got a 50k payout to start up this production company. The fact that it's kind of the same address, it is what's making me think there's all these 4 organizations, all kind of potentially tied to this cult, right? So there's definite evidence of a lot of money coming into this organization. So I'm going to have to find some of the specific videos that he's posted about, like, the violent ones. So this is going to take me a while, right? I'm going to have to kind of like grab transcripts and ask Rock to watch them for me, because I will not have like hours and hours and hours to watch all of his stuff. And then this is what I will be doing, going to this is what somebody probably going to do after they've watched this video, right? Fair enough. That's fine. I am not promoting terrorism or extremism in any way, shape or form. But so you basically come to www.gov.uk/report-terrorism. And then articles, images, speeches or videos that promote terrorism or encourage violence, websites made by terrorist or extremist organizations, videos of terrorist attacks. So screenshots, links. So the fact that Interpol, right, so this is what's really important, is the fact that Interpol were legitimately investigating them for murder. Like, this is not, like, this is something to be concerned about, because they are actively recruiting and will be recruiting disenfranchised members of the Muslim population. So if you watch any of the pledging videos, they are young people. They are the rabid left of the Islamic community who feel like they've been let down. So these will be the homegrown terrorists, right? Who I mean, I definitely think there's probably links to CIA, MI6, especially due to the timeline of 2008, him being an 80s child, him being, investigated for the documentary. There's lots. It doesn't make sense how he started a cult in Egypt at the same time the Muslim Brotherhood was rabid, unless it was being funded, also being funded by the CIA, right? And obviously the CIA and MI6 kind of, they all work together. Everybody works together. And Mossad, because, Mossad created ISIS, and all of those, they all work together. There's no there's no separation. And while individual agents may think there are, like, it's the same bosses, because they've got the same fucking plan. But I don't know why people aren't talking about, like, the being investigated for murder and having to escape countries for fraud, potential murder, for this is not a benign, happy clappy, like, this is Charles Manson all over again, right? So they will incite this guy, and it's easy to do now, right? It's easier to do now than it was back back then, because we have advanced weaponry with regards to Jew technology. We have, using satellites and new router. We have easy. It definitely sounds like they are being, it's easy to rig up a house and pump drugs. Because remember, that's what Charles Manson used to do, is he used to force, everybody used to force everybody to take drugs and then force them to have orgies, right? So that he indoctrinated like all of them. So it's just, I'm really grateful that I'm listening to the Chaos book, because while I was reading up on this cult, I was like, okay, well, this is just, it's the same shit a different day. They're not original ever. Like, it's literally, oh yeah, we did this before and it worked, let's try it again. Like, it's just so weird. So weird. Okay, so I'm just going to pause, and we're going to get into the mayhem side of things. If I can get it to pause, because I'm going to start with a video. Let's do a video. Because I made this video. And I thought, do you know what? Why don't I share the video first? And then we can go into some extra little bits. I just need to turn the sound on. Oh, sorry. Missed the chat. Oh, it's just because it's like a bullshit one. Oh, you don't need to hear it, because actually there's words on the screen. So I will be me mute. It's about your mind being like a computer, or it being like a filing cabinet. Now, what if I told you that was bullshit? So your mind doesn't compute things using binary code. That's ludicrous. It's way more sophisticated than that. Neither is it shuffling flashes of memories in chronological order like that defunct filing cabinet sitting in your office gathering dust. You've probably heard the phrase, like, everything's energy, right? So is your mind. It's literally waves of energy, which means it's resonating at a specific frequency depending on what you're doing. And when you have an experience, whatever the experience, you are also vibrating at a specific emotional frequency. And this is something I like to call your atomic hum. Now, your mind, the ever responsive cataloger of information, attunes the experience with the frequency that you were feeling at the time of the event. And this means, like Netflix, which categorizes TV shows and films by the emotion they'll elicit in the viewer, such as comedy, horror, or drama, all your love experiences are stored together, your hate experiences, your desire experiences, and so on. Which also means if you want to succeed in life and tap into your genius, the most important thing you need to do is to first get into the feeling state of how you'll feel when you've succeeded. And when you do this, your mind can tap into the collective conscious on the same energetic frequency, and you'll be able to grab all the information you need to succeed. This is literally what happens when you have those intuitive, inspirational, and truly magnificent ideas. Okay, so I will get better at that, because then I was like, oh my god, but this is really awkward if anybody's just kind of listening and they're like, what's going on? It's just silent. Okay, so basically we can talk about how Netflix helps you tap into your genius, right? So that was the teeny tiny little kind of like teaser video I put out a couple of days ago. And I thought, you know, I'm going to talk about that, because in a little bit more detail to you guys, because, well, one, you've been here with me for an hour and a half already, so you deserve a bit of extra info. But also, I think it's like really, really important thing to understand, right? So the lie is that your brain's a computer, right? That's just like, it genuinely is ludicrous, right? And even quantum computers don't come anywhere near to the power of our mind, right? And our mind is not our brain, right? It's two different things. And actually, back in the day, when Jesus was knocking around, they called it the will, right? So your mind and your will are not your brain, right? So this is where modern science has just gone disinformation bullshit, right? We're not talking about your brain. Your brain is literally like the receiver, and it does what it's told based on how you feel, your emotional, your atomic hum, right? So your overarching frequency that's going on in your cells will tell the world what you're kind of rippling out and what you're going to get back. So quantum computing cannot touch our DNA, right? Our genetic code. And I spoke about how the fact that, it's not just letters with regards to C means this and A means this and T means this and G. It's different frequencies that all work in harmony to you make a human, right? Where like just randomly from like an egg and a bit of, a sperm, like you make an entire human and nobody tells it what to do. Like we are the ultimate code that we don't understand, right? So if we can make computers, but we can't unpack humans and how to make copying humans through clones is not the same, right? They can't take a cell and turn it into a human. They actually can't even take a cell and then strip all the stuff out and then make a fresh thing, because as soon as it goes into the real world, it becomes the thing it already was, right? That was Craig Ventnor was trying to do that, and he couldn't, because nature is more powerful. Nature's code is more powerful, and it's because it's connected to the earth. It's not like separate. It's like it's all of us. We're already connected. So saying that we're a computer is really degrading, right? Because it makes people think that it makes humans stupid, right? Saying that we're a computer makes us stupid. Saying that our memories are stored like filing cabinets, and it's like chronological order, like an old photo album, like again makes us seem like we are not so sophisticatedly intelligent if we are using our mind or will, whichever you want to use, if we're using our mind correctly, right? Because we are quantum entangled with everything else in the universe, right? Because we're energy. So this is how you, having never read anything about a subject, can get into the state of mind, because it's not your brain, it's not talking about brain, it's talking about mind. Get into the state of mind that enables you to tap into the collective consciousness and have a conscious thought, conscious idea, which enables you to take steps in a subject that you've never even fathomed or never kind of read anything about, right? So this is something that I have been doing without realizing for a very long time, because I will know things, and then it usually takes me about 6 to 18 months to kind of find all the information to figure out how to be like, oh, okay, that was true. Like I've now got the proof. That thing that I randomly knew out of nowhere is true, because now I'm here's the proof, right? This is why you had that random idea, okay, out of nowhere. So it's how you feel, right? Because it's frequency, and your atoms are vibrating a specific frequency, and each frequency is representative of a different emotional state, right? That is the most basic way to explain it, right? So if you feel like shit, the only information you can ever capture, either inside your mind, whether you're conscious or you're subconscious, or information from the collective consciousness, is information that resonates with feeling shit, right? And this is where people get it really wrong. Like this is the most simple way to explain it. If you feel like shit, you will only ever hear information that enables you to perpetuate more shit, right? Because it's aligned. So in order for you to have those flashes of inspiration, right? So there's the story about Isaac Newton was asleep and he was bopped on the head by an apple, and he's like, oh, I have this genius idea, right? That's probably a made-up story, but he was asleep and he woke up with an idea. Well, I mean, maybe he wasn't, right? He woke up with the idea because he was in a relaxed state. Like when you're asleep, I mean, unless you're having a nightmare, you are in like super relaxed, super tuned into the like information highway. That I'm not surprised that he then was like, oh my God, I'm sure it was Newton. If it wasn't, and it was another physicist, then like, my apologies. I do have issues with names and faces and dates and stuff. It's not my fault. My brain's broke. In that capacity. So if you want to have a happy, healthy life, if you want to make lots of money, if you want to change the world for good, if you want to live in a place where everybody is peaceful, right? It's peaceful, and there's not war, and there's not anger, and there's not psyop after psyop after psyop because it's the cabals in control. Then you can't do any of that from a space of being angry, from a space of being pissed off, from a space of, and even righteous anger, right? Because that's still anger, right? If you have a thought when you are feeling angry, the only thing you will do is create more anger. Like, that's it, because you cannot, like, and this isn't like sometimes you can, is you, like black and white. This is a fundamental principle of how things work, right? So if I fall down the stairs, I always fall down the stairs. I don't fall up. I mean, I've fallen up, but I mean, if I'm at the top, right? If I'm at the top, I can only go down. Okay. If I'm at the bottom, I can only fall on my face. This is what when I get stressed out, I get clumsy first, right? Because that's the portion of my brain that's impeded. So that's how I know when I'm stressed, is I will walk into more things, right? So if any of that happens, I will take the time, the opportunity to do the things I need to do to clear out my the blockages in my energy system. And I mean like actual electrical energy impulses around my body from my atoms, not woo-woo energy, like actual legit how my body works energy. And I'm not saying woo-woo stuff have got it all wrong. I'm just saying that the way that they explain it is unhelpful for anybody who actually wants to make a difference. So in order for me to have so if I want loads more money, right? I want loads more money. Then I need to know what it would feel like for me to have lots of money, right? And the best way for me to do that is to look back in my past and think about times when that's been true, right? Because you want to lean on something that's true for you, right? The hardest thing to do is start like, imagining, oh, when my life's amazing, this is what my life's going to look like. When it's really fucking hard to do that, right? Because we find it very difficult to perceive things that we haven't seen, right? So if I'm imagining what my life will be like, it will be based on all the things that I've seen from other people's lives, and I may not actually really align with them, right? So if I think about lots of money, I'm maybe thinking about, a yacht, right? I don't want a yacht. That's not going to put me in alignment with how the money situation, because I don't want that thing, right? So look back into your past where that has been true, and then uncover that feeling, right? How did you feel, right? So I always, when I'm talking to my clients, I talk about, if they've got money issues, I always say, like, my first goal when I was running my business was to be able to go to the petrol pump, put the pump in the car, and then not worry about it needing to be completely filled, right? Not staring at the pump, being like, I've literally got 20 quid, that's all you can have, right? Being terrified if it ticked over the 20 pounds and 1 pence because I didn't have that 1 pence, right? So that was my first milestone. So I have that milestone when I achieved it etched into my mind. And so if I'm ever struggling with money, I literally close my eyes, I think about that day. I put my entire emotional state in that moment. And then I'll take some time to just listen, right? And I don't mean like 12 hours of freaking meditation. I mean like maybe 2 minutes, right? But I mean, I have been doing it a while, right? Without realizing, for a very long time. So I will just listen, but I will like have a focus, right? So if I'm thinking about money and want more money and I put myself in the space of money, the thing that I'm going to hear is about how you can get some more money, right? And actually my brain's kind of saying stuff to me in the background, so I don't even need to really wait anymore. My brain just shouts at me all the time. And it's fine. I have to say to it, it's fine. I've heard you the first time. So and then you take action, right? And then you achieve something that enables you to kind of take one more step to your goal, and you take time to imprint that moment into your DNA, which stores your memories, right? Because they use DNA, like, because a DNA like little memory chip, because they have those now, like a thumb drive or USB stick, depending on whether you're here from the UK or the USA. You're not using microchips, they're using DNA, right? They're using grown human brain cells on computers, right? So you think about all these AIs, and we've got, you know, a rogue AI, which I'm not going to mention because I've already been shut off Facebook, and it got Tory removed from YouTube, and I've only really just been allowed back on. I'm not going to mention it. So we have a rogue AI already, right? And we have AIs which are blackmailing people with fake blackmail to not be shut down, right? So, but they're using lab-grown human brain cells as like connectors in these computer chips, right? So these AIs are not computer. They are an amalgamation between human and machine, right? So where they want us to go with transhumanism. However, they are not human. And a brain cell is not. So it's only ever going to be an extension of the person who it's like a clone, right? It's not free thinking, as in it won't be free thinking outside of the information that the human it was grown from has. So, I mean, if it's a psychopath whose brain they're using, then we've just created a psychopath AI, right? So anyway, you do that thing, and then you imprint the achievement on your mind, right? So you take the time, you celebrate, you feel good, you feel awesome. And then you take a minute or two, and then you hear what you should do next. And then you just do the next thing, and you do the next thing, and you do the next thing, no matter how insane and crazy it sounds. However, before you take action or before you listen, you must always be absolutely honest with how you actually feel. Because if you take an action from a place of shit, you're just going to create more shit, right? It isn't hard. It is really easy to do. And when you do it, things change quickly, right? So imagine, because we're all tuned into the collective conscious, and we've got the monk effect or the Maharishi effect and the peace project and all of those things that were done in the 70s, which they ignored and squished, right? So if I have good thoughts about somebody and I send them love, because we are entangled, quantum entanglement, which means like we are attached, like we're just all energy. The only thing that separates us is space, but we're just atoms everywhere, right? Legit science proves that whether you're like thousands of miles away and you send love and positive energy to somebody else, their body reacts on a biological level. Their cells change frequency. So now imagine if everybody's sending love to everybody, right? I've been saying this for 5 years. Stop feeding the anger, stop feeding the hate, stop feeding like the negative side of stuff, right? Just focus on creating a good life for you, right? And you will automatically feed into the good of the rest of the earth, right? It will happen because you are resonating on a different frequency. So when you have a good life, that filters outwards, right? And it's really easy for you to get a good life. I promise you. You just got to take the action. And for all the people who kind of advocate like meditating over and like, even Big G didn't fucking spend all of his time reflecting. For 6/7 of his time, he was acting. Right? Only 1/7 of his time was he kind of like chilling out to reflect on all that he'd done. Right? So all of these people who just meditate, you don't just like, nothing changes unless you take action. Like, it's just, and everybody like poring over scripture, like, and what? Like, use it to make people's lives better, but just regurgitating it. I have issues with armchair actor. So it's kind of like an armchair activist. No, I take action though, right? I'm not just I need to chase up my FOI request that the police are ignoring. Anyway, okay, so that's how so Netflix can help you tap into your genius, because it helps you understand that your information and the information in the superhighway is not stored chronologically. It's not stored in any kind of logical order. It's stored by the emotion that you were feeling at the time of the experience. And you, because time isn't linear, the things that you want are also stored at that time. So I highly recommend you don't be specific. Like, so, I really want £1 million, right? That's quite difficult for the universe to kind of get to you, right? And also, it could have been you get a like 2 million way in, and you've just been like, no, I want 1 million. I really specifically want 1 million. And the universe is like, okay, well, it's going to take me like all of these different people. I've got to kind of, because everybody else wants stuff too, and you all need to be in alignment. So, and if you're asking for like £1 million because it's going to solve all your problems, and you're in like a grief state, it's like literally behind the door, right? You just can't open the door. You need to change the way that you feel to just, the door will open and everything you want comes, right? And if you want a bit of scripture, like, ask and it's given, knock and ye shall find. I think, I don't know, butchered those things. But anyway, it's there, right? Little J, Big G and Little J were telling you how to do it, and people just aren't doing it. So on that little note, if you do want to join the Happiness Hacks Lab, I would love to see you there. But it's fine. I don't mind. The people who are supposed to be there will be there. Have yourselves an amazing evening. I'm going to go and upload today's video. Because that's my life right now. Have yourselves an amazing day. I shall see you next Wednesday. No, I won't. I will see you next Monday. When I find some specific things that fit the framework for extremism and or terrorism and or any of the other dodgy shit that they're potentially doing, I will submit my official report, and then I'll share it. So probably won't be this week, because I will have to do some more digging, and I've already spent like all of it. So I have like Monday to kind of work on this stuff, and then I have Tuesday to work on other stuff, and then I'm just like working, right? So have yourselves an amazing evening, and I shall see you next week. Bye for now.